Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a few words to your conference today. The natural capital idea, the concept, is something whose time has finally come. And here in Manchester, you have already shown how the concept can be made operational. 10 years ago, natural capital was an idea in the background, but people were all focused on things like sustainability and a whole host of different ideas, but there was nothing to organise things. And you have to go back that 10 years, or almost 10 years, to the last white paper there was on the natural environment, called The Natural Choice, in 2011. And that white paper, in retrospect, turns out to have been much more important than anyone thought at the time. And it basically had a couple of core points to it. The first one, which is now being recognised, especially in respect of climate change, but much more generally, is that it's no good carrying on thinking of the environment as separate from the economy, as a kind of luxury we can have once we've got enough growth and enough income. We see where that leads. We've had 100 years of biodiversity going backwards. We've had some of the best naturalists in the world record the gradual decline of the natural capital that we have, punctuated by the odd, rare but important exception. So we've run out of road. We can no longer think about economic growth unless it's supported by a thriving and enhanced natural environment. And natural capital is the idea that puts the natural bit right in the heart of business and government. It's a form of capital. It's at least as important as all the other forms of capital, like physical and manufactured capital, like human capital, like labour, like social capital. The penny dropped over 10 years ago. And the second thing that was recognised back then in that white paper was that it's not going to happen of its own accord, that it needs to be driven forward. And my own committee, the Natural Capital Committee, of which I have the privilege of being the chairman, is the vehicle through which it was intended to drive that idea forward. And we really have. It's now true that natural capital is the way to think about our natural environment, the way to provide the lens for public policy, the way in which we're going to enhance people's lives, their physical and their mental well-being, their exposure to the natural environment and natural capital to help us from everything from flood defence to soaking up air pollution to providing much better and more effective river catchments. So the idea is now established. And when we in the Natural Capital Committee were thinking about how to take the idea forward, and in particular the central objective that the natural environment must be left in a better state for future generations than now, we came up with two core ideas. The first was that there had to be a plan. I know that the idea of planning had become unacceptable or unpolitically correct, or whatever the right term is, over the previous decades, but plan you must have. And we proposed a 25-year plan, and we're absolutely delighted that this was taken forward and we now have such a plan in place. But in addition to the plan, we thought we had to get on with trying it out. And that's why there were 4 pioneers set up, which we recommended, and Manchester has been, it's coming to a close, the key urban example. And of course, since almost all the population live in urban areas, and because natural capital is important for people and the benefits to people, unless we get the urban bit right, then the whole concept of a 25-year plan is really almost for the birds, if that isn't the wrong term to use. So We have the pioneers, we have the 25-year plan, and now it's about learning the lessons and working out how to take this forward across the whole country and really deliver on that objective. With the extra bit that's been added since that white paper and since the Natural Capital Committee started, which is the commitment to net zero. And with it, the recognition that it's the natural environment that absorbs a lot of carbon, and that by improving our natural environment and its land use, we're actually going to make significant steps forward to the net bit of net zero. So we've got the lessons, we've made the steps forward, we've got the 25-year plan. So what next? Well, we have to learn those lessons. It's all about making sure that we use public money for public goods and not private goods. We don't waste resources. It's all about making sure that polluters pay, not the pollutees. And it's all about net environmental gain, because development's going to happen, as you well know, here in Manchester, but across the whole economy. Those three principles are what's at stake. And we're now at that crucial point. And I guess that if people look backwards in 50 years' time and ask, what were the crucial pivotal points? We're now at that one, the one in which we have a new environment bill going into the Commons, and we have a new agricultural bill. Agriculture is 70% of land use, so you can't do this stuff without addressing agriculture, but the environment bill is absolutely central. The 25-year plan has to be on a meaningful statutory basis. The targets that are set have to be given statutory force, and those have to be driven off the back of the 10 goals in the 25-year plan, and there has to be an institution capable of making sure that all this stuff actually happens. And that's why we in the Natural Capital Committee have been very clear. The Office of Environmental Protection, at the core of this, has to have teeth, and it has to effectively take on the functions of an environment protection agency. And within that framework, the great urban areas and the cities have to have a central part. So it's all there now on the table. We have the clear objective to leave the environment in a better state for future generations. We have a 25-year plan. We have an environment bill. We have an agricultural bill, and we have a new institution in the making. So it's at least the point at which the future will be determined, and it's the point at which net zero is added to this equation. Whether we deliver it, whether this generation lives up to its responsibilities to the next, well, that's all up to be decided now. And you in Manchester have provided a fabulous example of how to start going about this. But it's a start. There is, to put it bluntly, a hell of a lot more to do, and this is an exciting and essential path. To fail on climate change, on biodiversity, on the natural environment is such a dreadful prospect that we can only really go one way, and that's to put foot forward and deliver all this stuff. It kind of starts now, the foundations having been made. So good luck to everyone trying to deliver this great outcome. Thank you very much.